You're listening to the Better for America podcast, presented by Amac, the Association of Mature American Citizens.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Weber, and this is your Amac podcast, Better for America. It's only been 6 months since President Biden took office, and he's getting an F on his report card as outlined by the House Ways and Means Minorities press release. Here's the breakdown in Ranking Member Representative Kevin Brady's press release. And these are 5 important facts. Number 1, job growth is slowing down. Despite huge advantages of the reopening economy, life-saving vaccines, and trillions in stimulus spending, President Biden created 1.4 million fewer jobs in the first 6 months of 2021 than President Trump did in the last 6 months of 2020. Number 2, economic growth is slowing down. In July 2020, CBO forecast our economic growth between 2023 and 2030 would average 2.1%. But since Biden took office, CBO has now lowered expectations to a mere 1.5%, nearly 30% reduction in growth. Economic optimism is down. The 6-month outlook for the U.S. economy plunged to a 5-month low of 50.8. Number 4, real wages are down. Annualized real wages are down 3.95%. And number 5, President Biden's net job approval on the economy is down. In fact, it's sliced nearly in half over the past month. Americans are losing faith in Biden's economic leadership and are worried about impending tax increases and higher costs of living. The only thing that's really up, folks, is rising prices. Inflation has been caused by massive government spending and has been fueled because President Biden was paying people more to stay on the couch than to return to work. For all of those reasons, including his economic attack on American-made energy and proposed crippling tax hikes on workers, farmers, and Main Street businesses, the grade that President Biden has earned in his 6-month economic report card, an inflation-adjusted F. On today's episode, to talk more about shrinking wages, fewer new jobs, and slower economic growth is Stephen Moore. In 2017, Moore worked with Larry Kudlow on overhauling the U.S. tax policy for the Trump administration, which was eventually passed into law by Congress. Stephen Moore, we're so pleased to have you with us here today. Stephen, we're witnessing unnecessary federal spending by Democrats, unnecessary federal unemployment add-ons, extra COVID spending, a wildly redefined infrastructure spending with trillions of spending ahead, and AMAC members are concerned. Now, Biden claims that his spending plans will reduce inflation, but how does runaway spending and massive tax increases help curb inflation, as Biden seems to suggest?
Well, you're exactly right in your question, because I think the president had his economics upside down. If you have an inflation problem, which we do, and your AMAC members see that every day when they go to the grocery store, when they go to the pharmacy, when they go to the gas pump, we're seeing prices rising across the board. We have not seen inflation like this, in my opinion, since Jimmy Carter was president back in the 1970s. And so it is a real hardship to people, by the way, especially lower income and middle income and seniors who are living on fixed pensions. Every time they go to the store and things are more expensive, it shrinks the paycheck and the pension. And so obviously, when you have rising prices, the worst thing you could do would be to massively increase government spending and government borrowing, because that just puts more money into the economy, which makes everything even more expensive. We should actually be cutting unnecessary government spending right now, not adding to it. So I'm very worried, because the president seemed to be saying the solution to a forest fire is to dump gasoline on it. And that isn't a very wise strategy.
Yeah, Biden seems intent on killing our energy sector, cramping major fossil fuel producers, wiping out energy independence. And, Trump made all of this possible. We were becoming energy independent. Gas prices, as you've mentioned, at the pump have gone up 40%. That impacts all Americans. So I agree that this is going to create problems ahead, especially if we become dependent on foreign producers again. Your thoughts on becoming dependent on foreign producers?
It's a huge problem, and you really put your finger on it. And by the way, just a few days ago, I mean, I was just stunned. I wake up and read the Wall Street Journal, and Joe Biden has approved a pipeline. But it's not a pipeline here in the United States. It's a pipeline between Russia and Germany for natural gas. And yet he won't allow natural gas pipelines to be built here. I mean, what's wrong with that picture? So we are not putting America first. I was very proud to have worked on Donald Trump's energy policies. The whole idea was to make America energy independent. And I used to say to the president, we can be energy independent. He'd always correct me. He said, I don't want to be energy dominant. And we were becoming the energy dominant country. By the way, in January of 2021, the last month that Donald Trump was in office, for the first time in my lifetime, we imported zero oil from Saudi Arabia. Why? Because we were producing the oil and gas here in the United States. What I don't get is why the President Biden feels it's better for America to get our oil and gas from Saudi Arabia and Iran and Iraq and Russia than to get it from Texas and Oklahoma and North Dakota. I mean, I just don't think that's an energy policy that puts America first. I think it's an energy policy that puts America last. And incidentally, it's one of the reasons that the gas prices at the pump are higher, right? Because it's more expensive to get this oil and gas from these other countries, the OPEC countries, than getting it here at home.
Yes. We're seeing that, that's for sure. I want to shift to President Biden's proposed tax plan, because Biden did promise that those making under $400,000 per year would not be impacted. However, could you share with us a little bit about his plan to increase death taxes and capital gains rates, corporate tax hikes? I just want to mention that under the Trump tax cuts, in which you and Larry Kudlow played major roles, the opposite was true. Lower taxes generate economic growth and jobs. So would you expand on this? And what is your crystal ball projection for this Congress?
Well, you've got it exactly right. I'm impressed. You're getting it today. So you're right. We reduced taxes, not because we wanted to help rich people. We wanted the American economy to perform better, right? We wanted to create more jobs for middle income and lower income people and minorities and all Americans. We wanted to bring businesses back to the United States by making our tax rates lower than other countries. Janet Yellen, who is now the Treasury Secretary, thinks that's a bad thing, to outcompete other countries by keeping our taxes low. And so I'll just give you an example of how crazy this is. So under the Biden tax plan, we would actually have a higher tax rate on our businesses than China. Wow. I mean, my gosh, that's going to lead to businesses and capital and jobs flowing out of the United States to countries like China. So I don't understand the logic of it. I just believe that by the way, it worked. What Trump did worked. We got all these businesses moving back. We got massive amounts of investment capital coming to the United States. We had the lowest unemployment rate, in recorded history practically. So it was a big success. And I don't understand why you would change that game plan. And you're also very right to bring up this new death tax. I mean, that is, every senior citizen should be outraged by that. It will destroy our family-owned businesses, which are the backbone of our economy. It will hurt farmers. It will hurt ranchers. It will hurt our small businessmen and women who spent their whole career building up their business so they could pass it on to their kids. And now they can't do that. I'm sorry. I think that's anti-American.
I agree. And our members agree with you as well there. Now, Biden keeps pushing for higher and higher minimum wages. These are higher minimum wages for really, standby jobs, the kinds of jobs that our kids take in high school. Isn't that bad economics, since businesses really just reduce the number of people that they employ in order to pay for the higher wages, and they're really forced to pass on their increased cost, causing the cost of goods and services to increase. And there's no increased output or productivity. Am I missing something here? Help us understand why runaway minimum wages and buying votes with promises to increase the minimum wage is unwise.
Well, look, I'm for the highest wages Americans can get, and we're the highest wage country in the world. The average wage in the United States is about $28 to $30 an hour, and that's much higher than any other country. It's great. I want Americans to be, as prosperous as possible, but you don't do that by having the government force up these wages, because then you cause unemployment and a real hardship to small businesses. I was really struck by what the President Biden said the other day to a small business owner at a town hall meeting. And the small business owner said, hey, I can't get my workers back because the government's paying people so much to stay unemployed. And Biden, I thought rather arrogantly, and by the way, let's not forget, Joe Biden has never run a business in his whole life, so he doesn't know anything about running a business. He said, oh, well, you just have to raise your wages. And he doesn't understand. If you're in the restaurant industry, that's a hyper-competitive industry. They have very small profit margins. What you're going to do is you force those employers to raise their wages. You're going to put those small businesses out of business. And who benefits from that? Amazon, Apple, Walgreens, Walmart, the big guys. So what we're doing right now is really hurting our small businesses, which I think are, the men and women, the 30 million small business owners in this country. They're the real heroes of our economy.
That's right. I have one last question for you, Stephen, and I would like to hear your comments on what's happening currently with the infrastructure bill and the tactics that we're seeing that are being used by Chuck Schumer. Can you update our listeners and sort of let them know what you see is happening currently and what we can expect next as it relates to the infrastructure bill?
Well, I'm just going to correct you on one thing, okay? You said infrastructure bill. This isn't an infrastructure bill. It's not roads. It's not bridges. They're calling it infrastructure, right? But it doesn't have most of it. I've looked at this bill. Only about 20% of the spending at most is roads and bridges and airports. Most of it is green energy. They have this new term I'd never heard before, human infrastructure, which is this welfare programs. So I'm frustrated because obviously Americans do want the roads to be, less traffic congestion. They want to fix the potholes and we want safe bridges. But that's not what this bill does. It's massive increases in wind and solar industry subsidies, electric vehicle charging stations around the country. Now, look, did the United States government pay for gas stations? No. Why should the taxpayers have to pay for recharging a Tesla? I mean, this is just such bad policy. And by the way, we don't have to. You want to talk about infrastructure? How about the Keystone XL pipeline? That doesn't cost the taxpayer one penny, and yet Biden wants to kill that plan while he's subsidizing wind and solar. I think we should be using all of the above energy policy. We should use our wind, our solar, our oil, our gas, our coal, our nuclear power. What Biden's trying to do is just force feed the economy on very inefficient. Let me put it like this. Does anybody really believe we can run a $22 trillion economy with windmills? It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And so I think Republicans need to block this. Even the so-called bipartisan bill is a terrible bill. We don't have $2 trillion to borrow. We should be cutting government spending by $2 trillion. I mean, it's almost like, COVID has turned into mad cow disease where these politicians want to spend and spend and spend and borrow and regulate. And we just need to get the government out of the way. Trump gave us the vaccine, right? And the vaccine has conquered COVID. I mean, there's still some minor problems, but this is mostly over. And all we need now is just to stop taxing, stop spending, stop regulating, stop borrowing, stop printing money. I think everything Washington is doing right now is exactly the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, Stephen, I think that there ought to be a prerequisite that before you can become president, you ought to have had run your own business or worked in some sort of management position in a business because this man has no clue how the economy really works. And thanks to you. And
by the way, neither does Kamala Harris.
Right.
Neither does Nancy Pelosi. Neither does Chuck Schumer. Neither does anybody in the virtually the entire Biden cabinet. These people don't know anything about business. Now, I didn't always agree with everything Donald Trump did. I advised him. I thought, there's two things I'll say about Trump that I think are important, and they're lacking in Joe Biden. Number one, he did know how to run a business. He did know how to meet a payroll. He knew the pains and struggles that small businessmen and women go through because he did it himself. Second of all, every decision that Donald Trump made, because I was with him many times in the Oval Office, every decision he made was about putting America first. And I'm not seeing that from this president. I mean, why would you approve a pipeline from our enemies and not approve one here in the United States? So I'm troubled by that. And I hope Joe Biden gets it together. But if we continue to have high inflation, millions of Americans on the sidelines not going back to their jobs, a massive debt of $20 trillion added, I really worry about the future of our country.
Yeah. And I don't like what I see happening either. The games on the left, they just don't want bipartisanship. They don't want to work across the aisle to come up with a real infrastructure bill. Certainly if they did, they would be giving Republicans the time and we'd be in a better place. So, Stephen, I want to thank you so much. This is so important. Our members care. We want to thank you, too, for the work that you've done. You've really had a tremendous positive impact on American lives because of your contribution and input. So for that, we thank you so much. And to all of our listeners
I want to
here.
say one last thing.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I think that this is a time where Americans have to, we can't just sit back and be pacifists here.
Right.
We have to rise up and revolt. I mean, this is a critical, dangerous moment for our country. What Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are doing is a disgrace to our country. If we allow them to do this, they will bankrupt our country. Our country is going to go over a financial cliff, and it's going to hurt everyone. And now is the time for people to take to the streets, frankly, peacefully, obviously, peacefully. But we have to let our congressmen and our senators know that we disapprove of all of this. We have to get back to low taxes, less regulation, pro-business, pro-America policies. We're not getting that right now. And if we don't, this is a magical moment. We can't just sit back and watch and think, well, we're powerless. No, we have power. They work for us. We don't work for them.
Thank you for that. We're working hard here over at Amac.
I know you guys are. Yeah. That's why I wanted to do the show. No. I love your person. I love what you guys do and stand for. What I'm saying is double your efforts, triple your efforts. We all have to. We can't allow them to do this to our kids and grandkids. They want a radical transformation of America that will make America a poorer place.
That's right. We've got a way to do it. If folks just go to amacaction.org, we're mobilizing on the state level, on the federal level. We've got hundreds of people out there doing good work and millions of members that are standing with us and with those great values that make America great. So again, I want to thank you so much, Stephen Moore, for joining us today. And to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in. If you have not already downloaded the Amac News app, I urge you to visit the App Store on your mobile device. You'll get great news that you won't really find anywhere else. Please listen to our podcasts to be kept up to date. And don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share wherever you stream. And lastly, folks, if you're not a member already, please visit our website, amac.us, and join now to help preserve the conservative values that our country was founded on. And if you are a member, please tell your loved ones about us and encourage them to join the Amac family. Thank you for all tuning in today, and we look forward to having you back with us next time. I'm Rebecca Weber, and this is your Amac podcast, Better for America. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Better for America podcast. To learn more about Amac and all it has to offer, visit us at www.amac.us.